Over at Marvel Comics, the publisher is about to head into a storyline for the X-Men known as Fall of X, in which the anti-mutant group known as Orchis is about to stage a multi-pronged assault over on Marvel's mutants. This assault even extends beyond planets, as Orchis is even assisting Genesis in her massive battle with Storm and some of the people of Arakko. My name is Arakko Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and dive into this latest chapter of X-Men. But before we dive deeper into the story, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. I want to go ahead and introduce some additional context behind X-Men Before the Fall Heralds of Apocalypse #1 with Marvel Comics solicitation text for the issue. The origin of Arakko. In ancient days, Genesis turned back the hordes of Amenth. In ancient days, Genesis forced Annihilation into a parley. What words were spoken in her mind? Now, finally, Apocalypse will know, and the echoes of those words might destroy him, and Arakko with him. Want to introduce our creative team over on X-Men Before the Fall, Heralds of Apocalypse. This one is written by Ewing, featuring artwork from Luca Pizzari, Stefano Landini, and Raphael Pimento. Plus, we have colors from Ceci De La Cruz, and letters and production with VC's Travis Lanham, along with design from Tom Muller. And the cover for the issue is coming in directly from Pepe, Larraz, and Marte, Gracia. Here's a look over at the cover for X-Men Before the Fall, Heralds of Apocalypse, issue #1. Really appreciate the kind of dynamic line that Pepe Larraz brings over to the work, and the way that all of these colors are kind of captured over from Marte, Gracia, depicting Apocalypse, Genesis, and some of the rest of the Horsemen as well. I think the foreboding nature of this cover really should get readers interested in this really climactic issue. I want to extend a big thank you over to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting this preview so fast. And of course, I want to go ahead and kick off our review by talking a little bit about some of the artistic contributions from Luca Pizzari, Stefano Landini, and Raphael Pimento. So overall here, usually when there's so many different artists contributing to one issue, I'm always able to kind of pick out and notice that there's some kind of inconsistencies throughout this tale. I really found that all three of these artists did a great job kind of matching up together, and were really able to depict this complicated and subtle narrative with a lot of intrigue as well. I feel like the vast majority of this issue is set up over in talking head scenes, and really do appreciate all of the kind of dramatic tension that these artists lend to the story. I really like how this page up on the screen kind of features an interesting use of negative space and page compositions. I think this is something that most of the artists kind of utilize at select points in the issue. Also appreciated the way that this complicated lore was depicted. I think these really kind of in-depth facial expressions for characters like Genesis and Apocalypse throughout this story really help this issue read a little bit more cohesively as well. I want to go ahead and focus in on the scripting from Ewing over in this story a little bit. One of the most intriguing parts about this tale is the fact that Apocalypse is returning over to kind of X-Men after such a long absence. I think that Ewing did such a great job kind of getting readers invested in the kind of characterization of Apocalypse. I love the fact that he's kind of a villain, because it lets readers sort of want to put up a barrier between empathizing with Apocalypse. But I think the kind of farther you get into this issue, the more that you'll find yourself relating to him, as he's sort of just trying to keep, his family and some of the other people of Amenth safe, despite what others around him are sort of looking to pursue over in this story. Now, to be honest, in this chapter, I was hoping that Ewing was going to have the ability to tie in a couple more additional plot threads over to this series in order to really give it that kind of backing behind Fall of X and some of the rest of these other titles. But I did like that this issue kind of continued one of the narratives that was introduced over in XMenRed. In a lot of ways, I think this chapter also kind of functions as the next kind of missing chapter for XMenRed, filling in a missing block of time over with what was going on with characters like Apocalypse, his children, and Genesis in the storyline. I think that the lore in this issue is also paced really, really well from Ewing here. The previous issues over in XMenRed are directly referenced in some of these pages, and found it really intriguing that so many characters are talking about people like the White Sword as well. Really interested to hear if some of the focus and attention will turn to John Ironfire over in some of the future issues. Also, I really appreciate the fact that Al Ewing is returning over to some of these plot threads from Ten of Swords. I feel like a lot of these kind of story threads were lingering in the background of select series, especially XMenRed, due to the fact that they're working with some of those same characters as well. So really hoping that this will strengthen some additional story plot threads and really give that kind of extra dimension over to Marvel's mutants. I think the fact that we now have a group of mutants kind of firmly established over on Arakko has really been a great way to sort of expand the franchise. And I hope that even kind of beyond Fall of X and future stories, that this aspect of X-Men is continued to be explored. I think the way that XMenRed has kind of mixed up and shaken up some of these space elements of X-Men has been just absolutely enthralling here. Also, the kind of characterization that Al Ewing is sort of lending towards, the Annihilation mask and the Annihilation staff, as well as how it kind of has a relationship with Genesis, is another really intriguing plot thread that was opened up in this storyline. And also, I do think that this is an incredibly slow-moving issue that's really devoted to kind of establishing Apocalypse's status quo alongside Genesis. But I think at the very, very kind of final page of this issue, we finally get that sort of fist bump moment that is going to inform Apocalypse's future role over in the Fall of X storyline and explain why he's been missing for such a large period of time. So really think that some of these kind of plot threads over from X-Men Before the Fall, Heralds of Apocalypse, are really going to help bolster the Fall of X event as a whole by showing just how vast the kind of Fall of X storyline is and how many plot threads it plans to take on over in the series as well. So at the end of the day, I had a great time over with X-Men Before the Fall, Heralds of Apocalypse. I think this is an issue kind of made for really patient readers who want to absorb some of the fringe aspects of the X-Men franchise. I think the way that Al Ewing is sewing this lore together over in the series has been absolutely wonderful. I really appreciate how this book also fills in a missing pocket of time over with Apocalypse, and think that it definitely has a chance to kind of bolster the Fall of X storyline as a whole. I want to know from you, what are some of your thoughts over on X-Men Before the Fall, Heralds of Apocalypse, issue number 1? Did you enjoy this series as much as I did? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for coming to check out our video review covering the very latest X-Men Before the Fall one-shot. Hope to see you really soon with all of our future X-Men coverage. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.